Haarlem is one of the easiest day trips from Amsterdam. It has a lot to offer. It's a small city packed with a lot of museums, churches and other sites. Today we will focus on the 3 things the city has to offer. A budget trip. And as a bonus, a free souvenir that fits in everyone's luggage. Most vlogs about Haarlem lack a bit of background and are focused on the main attractions. This is a shame because the city is nice just to walk through, but even nicer if you know a bit about it. So I will tell you a bit about the town and we will explore the Dutch way of doing things. Today we start our walk at the train station. This is in the north of the center and just outside the old town. The first railroad of the Netherlands was built from Amsterdam to Haarlem. The first station in Haarlem was built just outside the city gate, which we will visit later. Later they moved the station and built it in this spot. Before the 1830s, the city looked like this, a compact fortified city surrounded by fields. The current map of the center looks like this, it's a lot bigger. The old city is situated here. Then the city expanded to the north around 1830s. This is the area on the map. Now we're roughly here at the station. Our route today will take us from the station to the main square and a bit more to the south. Then we will go to the east of the center and double back to the station. Tucked away at the station you can get a free map at this machine. They're pretty handy, but an old school map still has its drawbacks. The station you see now is from 1910. It is the 3rd building on this location. It is built in the Art Nouveau or Jugendstil style, so this building has been rebuilt a couple of times, and the first building looked like this in 1860. You might even recognize it from the movies Ocean's 12. In this movie, it was featuring as the Amsterdam Central Station. How old do you think I am? I will not make this a vlog about the best places to eat or drink in Haarlem, but if you want a coffee, one of the best coffees at the best price you can get here in Westhof, located next to the square. You start walking south on the main street until you reach the canal. This canal is the border of the old city. There used to be a city gate here that was destroyed by the Protestant Dutch themselves during the 80-year war with the Catholic Spanish. All that reminds us today about the city gate is the pattern in the pavement, which represents the explosion. By the way, for a budget lunch, you can get stuff in one of the supermarkets which are in this stretch up to the main square. As you walk into this part of the city, you will gradually see older and older buildings in between some newer builds. But there are rare exceptions. Not everything is what it seems. This building always gets a lot of attention. It's in a style that belongs to the 16th century, but was built in the 1930s. Later we will continue south, but at this junction you'll probably want to have a look around. The Hofje on the right obviously stands out. A Hofje is a communal courtyard with small houses around it. These houses were built for the old people and some of the Hofjes date back to the 14th century. This one is not accessible for the public, but it's not completely hidden. Haarlem has quite a number of these Hofjes, and these are normally hidden. We will visit one of the older and hidden ones later. As you can see, Haarlem has all the normal trappings of a modern Dutch city. Even a couple of coffee shops, like this one, which for some reason has Darth Vader. If you continue the route south, you will arrive on the main square. Haarlem is not as busy and touristy as Amsterdam. Everything is a bit more laid back and less hectic. On the main square, the Sint Bavout Church towers over everything else. We won't be visiting today, because I promised you free entertainment. But it's worth a visit. The square itself is used for markets and festivals, so it can be a busy place. In the corner, next to the church, is our first destination. Here on the ground, in the vaults of the old meat hall from 1603, there's an exhibition on the archaeological finds in and around Haarlem. The museum itself has a collection of pieces which dates back 6,000 years ago. There are objects from the Roman times and the Middle Ages when Haarlem was already a sizable town. Haarlem is located on the higher sand grounds, so this area has a richer history of human occupation than the surrounding areas like Amsterdam. Back on the square, let's take a look at one of the other impressive buildings on the square. It's the old City Hall. combination of buildings which started with a hunting castle from the year 1370. The front part houses the tourist office. But next to it, there's a more interesting place. It's called Anno Haarlem, and it's sort of an extension of the tourist office. The people working there can help you with specific questions, or if you're interested in a specific field, to which museum to go. They have a nice short video about the history of Haarlem, which you can check out. Like the exhibition, it highlights the historic timeline and the industries that made Haarlem an important place. Haarlem and surroundings used to be famous for big industries like book printing, beer, chocolate, textiles and flowers. Now, we take the central street running off the square. This is the main shopping street. If you walk through the shopping street, you will see the store of Jansje on your left. Next to it, there's a gate. Don't worry if the gate isn't open, because if it isn't, you can enter this one through the shop of Jansje. We are here to have a look at the so-called hidden church, a schuilkerk in Dutch. But before we get to that, there's a lot more to see. When you enter, there's a photo exhibition hall with an ever-changing exposition of photo. Then, if you follow the stairs up, you will find an art-like exhibition about the concept of the Jansje store and its employees. This whole complex, including a shop and a lunchroom, is run by people that have, as the Dutch call it, a distance to the normal labor market. At the heart of this complex, there's a full-size church from the year 1683. In that time, this Protestant church was forbidden under the Spanish Catholic rule. But the local government turned a blind eye and tolerated the church under a gedoogbeleid. The Dutch have a term gedogen. This loosely translates into tolerating something that is against the law. Under this concept, the church became more and more outspoken. Because the entrance used to be in this little side alley. But later they opened up a gate in the parallel street and eventually the entrance we just came in. On the main street in a time when this wasn't really allowed. It's hard to film the real scale of this church because of the limited view from the streets. But luckily, they have a model standing in the back of the church. We were lucky to find an entrance in the back open and had a look inside. The complex spans the whole space between the two streets and now has a lot of entrances. This one is from 1902 and in the Art Nouveau or Jugendstil style, just like the train station. This side is not always open. In here there's a cute little courtyard and some rooms for the elders of the church to have their meetings. This church is referred to as a Mennonite church, but it's a bit more progressive. We were also lucky with the organ doing a rehearsal of the national anthem. Churches don't need to hide anymore in the Netherlands, but this concept of gedogen still exists today. Darth Vader and his coffee shop can exist because of the policy of gedogen. By law, it's actually not allowed to buy and sell soft drugs. But a municipality can decide to gedoog the coffee shop. This way the government can in theory comply with international relationships and treaties, and in practice people can buy and smoke soft drugs without interference of the police. So now, from the street we turn to the north and take the street to the east. We reach the river. This is the Spaarne River. Over the river we turn to follow it and you can make your way to the Amsterdamse Poort. This is the last remaining city gate of Haarlem. It It was built in the midst of the 14th century. The rest of the city gates and the city walls have been demolished over time. The gate itself is not accessible for the public. It's rented out and used by a local artist as a living space. The city defenses were broken down mostly in the late 1800s because they lost their function and stood in the way of the ever-growing traffic. Our next destination is to the north. Don't follow the road, but go through the nice neighborhood to the Koepelgevangenis. This impressive building used to house the prison, but has been remade into a multifunctional space. There's a cafe, a movie theater, offices and student housing. But we're going to have a look at some of the old prison cells. First and most famous cell is the one that was briefly occupied by the resistance hero Hannie Schaft. This was during the Second World War. She was known as the girl with the red hair, and with the resistance she acted against the Germans and the local traitors. She was caught and executed by the Germans 3 weeks before the liberation of the Netherlands. If you wander through the complex, you will find at least 2 other accessible cells with an art exhibition. I actually didn't know they were here and found them accidentally when I was looking for the first cell. Once you manage your escape, you can continue north in the direction of the windmill. Actually, there is even an escape game in the prison if you are interested, but book in advance. The windmill Adriaan is one of the main sites and costs €7.50, so we won't be visiting today. But since you're so close now, you can of course pop in if you want to. The windmill was actually built on one of the old defense towers. If you like the content so far, you can give a like and subscribe now, because I will post some more videos later. You can walk over the bridge, cross the main road and head back into the old center through the Kokstraat in the direction of the Bakenessengracht. In the Kokstraat, at number 11, we actually passed the site of a hidden Catholic church, which was established here after the Protestants took over. It's not accessible, but the church used to look like this according to the Provincial archive. This building connects internally to another house on the Bakenessengracht 33, a bit up ahead, and is so hidden that it was used by the resistance as a communication center by way of the old wireless radios. We follow the canal back to the south to Bakenessengracht number 64 on the other side of the canal. Here we look for a small gate with a riddle. It's the Hofje of Bakenes. The riddle is a mathematical equation that has 2 answers. The last 2 lines are like this. For women 8 and 2 times 6. It comes out as 60 or 20. 60 the age of the women that could live here, or 20 the amount of women that could live here. Take a good look at the rules before you walk in. Please try to behave your best. This Hofje is the oldest one that still exists in the country. It is from 1395, but it has been rebuilt in the year 1658. These Hofjes were built for the old women, or sometimes men, who couldn't work anymore. They were built and maintained by the church or a specific guild of the city. Next to it is the youngest Hofje of this country, the Johannes Enschede Hofje. Once you exit the Hofje, you can make your way to our last destination for today. It's the Provincial archive. We're in the province of Noord-Holland, so it's the Noord-Hollands Archief. First of all, it's located in the Janskerk and the adjacent monastery, and was originally completed in the year 1318. The church has a long and interesting past. In one point in time, in the year 1799, it was used to house English and Russian prisoners after a failed attempt to liberate the Netherlands from the French and Napoleon. Before we go to see the exhibits, I will tell you about an idea for a free souvenir. You might have noticed some old maps or paintings for sale in the antique or bookshops along the way. The archive has digitized a lot of these. It's a vast collection about Haarlem and the rest of the province. And the best thing, you can download these for free on their website. Attribution of the source is not required, so you can download some high quality stuff and use it as a screensaver to remind you of your trip, or you can print one of these in the online services available nowadays and hang it on your wall. The site is in Dutch, but you can easily search on your own. Nevertheless, I made a nice selection of links of Haarlem you can see in the description in this video. Furthermore, if you have a specific wish about the subject, I will do a search for the first 10 such requests in the comments. There's a couple of exhibitions in the archive. The first one is about a local printing company. Printing was a big business in Haarlem. The local newspaper, the Haarlems Dagblad, they claim to be the oldest newspaper still in print today. Mind you, the oldest one in the world. It's on the first floor. The second exhibition is in the small chapel on the ground floor. Before you enter, you can admire the remains that were found here and are now visible under your feet. The chapel features the women in the resistance during the Second World War. In 3 languages, Dutch, English and German, you can read and listen about the different forms of resistance. It ranges from printing illegal newspapers, hiding people from the Germans, or sabotage and liquidations. The portraits on the wall are a small selection of the 1200 known women who participated in the resistance in the province. When you leave the archive and turn to the north, you will end up back on the square of the train station. On your way, you will pass another reminder in the pavement of one of the city gates that used to stand here. Of course, you can also follow the road the other way, and it will bring you back to the main square, where you can enjoy the city a bit more. We only covered a section of the city today, so there's a lot more to tell, but we'll save that for another day. Thank you for watching, until next time.